Welcome to Containerized Conversations, where we try to containerize our conversation. I'm Jessica Caffarelli.
And I'm Josh Warhurst. Thanks for tuning in as we dive into some of our favorite topics, one containerized thought at a time.
So, Josh, this is part 2 of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where we talk about the next chapter, which is the 7 Habits Overview. Now, I know you have a lot to say about this, so why don't you kick us off?
Sure. So I think this was actually kind of confusing that it was called the overview when it's like not the very beginning. Seriously, like the author talks about paradigms before he talks about the overview of the whole habits. And I think that makes sense. There's a story in the book, I forget where he talks about how maybe his son talks about this, where his father like actually had to go and rewrite the book like 4 different times because he decided later on that the order of explaining things was wrong. So I can understand why like maybe this became the second section.
Yeah.
But you have to first understand paradigms before you can actually understand the whole point of having the habits. I thought it was really interesting to call these habits, right? Because he says the quote is actually the habits as he's defining them is the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire, right? Knowledge is what I know I need to do. Skill is being able to do it, and desire is actually willing it into existence. You know, I think a lot of people, when they hear the word habit, they're thinking like brushing my teeth.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
They're thinking like every morning I look at the news before I get out of bed, right? Or these kind of basic habits. I think it was actually one of the things that's both very powerful in this book is the sort of redefining of what a habit is or what a habit should be.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the reason why I didn't originally pick it up. Because,
I mean, you say redefine, but honestly, I think that's just been this like unspoken definition of habits that we had no idea what the real definition was, because habit's such a basic word.
That's fair. That's fair. I think the idea of a habit is something that you need to be doing daily. Yeah. Or at least, if not daily, just constantly. And I think he's saying that the habits that we should be thinking about are not the habits that we currently do, right? I mean, brushing your teeth is not a bad habit. Exercising is not a bad habit. But these are higher level habits that sort of influence every other habit. You know, one thing I think is really interesting is he talks about the habits kind of, again, in the previous chapter, the idea of inside out, like we need to focus on ourselves before we focus on actually changing the world. I think the author describes the idea that you can do anything by yourself. And he's saying, actually, you need to go one level higher to interdependence because we can achieve a lot more in a group than we can by ourselves. And I think that is a actually profound insight from this book, that we not only need to improve ourselves, but we need to actually bring that into our relationships with other people. And that the way that we are actually truly effective is not just by being effective ourselves, but by being effective in our relationships with other people.
I want to touch upon that because this is one of my mad red line diagrams on my page I have highlighted. And this definitely was like a paradigm shift for me too. When we're at work and we're working, have you ever had a situation where you got frustrated with someone because they asked you a question and you were like, you could Google this, and you literally gave them the link, right? And Googled it for them. That it's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you.
100%, 100%.
Okay.
I have like so many stories in my head of stories where somebody said, how do I do this? And I Googled it and I got the answer and I said, what about this?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're a genius.
Yeah.
And you're like,
so in that instance, you got frustrated because you were an independent person and it was very obvious that they were intellectually dependent on you to achieve their goal. And it frustrated you because they didn't need to be dependent. This isn't something that needed some sort of dependency on. And you had to give them the answer. And then it was up to you to decide whether or not you teach them to be more independent in the future. We say this, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man how to fish, he eats for a lifetime, right? You have to make the decision in that moment of, are you going to teach this person independence, or do you just let them be dependent and just be frustrated with them? So that was one thing that was like this like aha moment of like, this is why I get frustrated with people at work. But this is how I used to be. I read this book early in my career And so I missed a lot of things. But now coming back to this later in my career, I'm starting to realize I am now that interdependent person. And when I was younger, I confused interdependency with dependency. And
Right.
so this idea that an interdependent person can be independent, but also recognizes that they are stronger together than as an individual person. And I do think now, being a lot more older and wiser in my years, I recognize that interdependency is more effective. And I almost get frustrated when I can't create an interdependency in a team.
That is one of the big insights of this book.
Yeah.
Right? Is the idea that interdependence is actually a higher level than independence. And I think it is really fundamental. He uses a term when he's describing the habits as they're being like basic, or I forget the exact word he uses. He talks about how like he discovered the habits, right? That they've always existed, and he's merely like writing them out.
Wait, I actually want to take a pause for a second and just recognize. So this book was created in 1989. That was before like the internet was created in 1983. So
And internet.
not the internet we know today. No. This was like for hooligans. It wasn't really meant. People didn't
ARPANET.
start using it till like 93, 95, like AOL and Windows 95. That was when it was really used. This guy figured all of this stuff out before the internet, before we were all connected. My mind's blown that he came up with this stuff.
Listen, there were libraries.
Yeah, there was libraries. That's it. He couldn't ask AI all of this stuff. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that he just figured this out just through his experience.
I think one of the reasons that he figured this out, or at least he got to the conclusions that he did, was because he actually didn't ask AI. He observed.
Yeah.
He saw.
Yeah. Well, he was a
psychologist,
a psychiatrist, or a psychologist. He was one of those. And so like he was in the line of work where he got experienced in this, but still, I mean, it takes a higher level of thinking to really connect those dots.
You see from the stories, right? His history, like this is actually his life's work in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
It's everything he did at this point until he discovered, or he figured out how he wanted to describe these. But
sorry, I sidetracked you. It just blows my mind. It just blows my mind.
It's good. So I think it's funny. So he describes the 7 habits as, he actually has a diagram in this book, which I feel like is this very 80s diagram. It's kind of like, hard lines and circles and triangles. It's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But later in this book, if you have the latest version, his son has this version of the diagram that's like a tree. And I think that's actually the better version of this, which is like, oh.
So you're talking about page 52, the like hard line diagram, and then the updated one is 66. Honestly, I like the 52 one. I don't know if that just speaks to
you're
how
so
old
techy.
my mind is. Like, no. Yeah, I don't know.
It's cool in a way that
it really describes like, dependency is the bottom level. And then you learn habit 1, 2, you learn habit 3, and then that gets you to independence. And then from independence to get to interdependency, you then have to go through all of these other parts, right? And then you have like that having 7, that's just like a circle around it all because you just keep sharpening it.
Go to page 66 though. Look at this diagram.
Well, so this looks like the food pyramid, which is what I grew up on. So it just calls to me.
But the whole thing of like, you have to develop yourself, this whole concept of private victory, right? Like people don't see this thing. You improve yourself.
Yeah.
And
I like it. I do like it. Yeah.
You make the tree, which is like how you connect to the world. And then the sharpen the saw is like the rain, where you're constantly like feeding yourself and feeding the tree and like improving.
And you putting it that way, like, then I think I do like this more. The fact that everything underground is like things people don't see, that's really giving life to the things they do see.
Yeah.
So I like that. You gave me a paradigm shift. I'll take it.
One other concept that I think is really interesting, again, talking about the overview of this, right, which is the high level view of the habits.
Yeah.
We've talked about the personal victory before the public victory. Idea of on page 53, he talks about the P/PC balance.
Yep, yep, yep.
So P is production, PC is production capacity. There's a lot of ways that you can take this metaphor, PPC. You can take it from a management perspective where
Yeah.
they say, you know what, invest in your workers because
Yeah.
that's the only way that you actually get results. There's this part of this book, this whole book that is trying to be an audience for everybody. It's
Yeah.
very much kind of like the Bible or any other big book, quote unquote, where they're trying to say, no matter where you are in life, you're going to get something out of this, right? You won't get the same thing as another person, but we're going to try to make this like matter to anybody who reads this book. So there's sections that are like almost entirely made for business leaders. There's entire sections that are made for family members or for small businesses or for people who work in a company.
Yeah.
Right? It seems like there's little anecdotes, and it's fun. I think it's fun. It's a way of explaining all this. But there are sections for like this PPC balance where it's like, managers, don't think of your workers as expendable because like you want those golden eggs. Don't kill your, workers, right? You want the P, then deal with the PC, right?
Yeah. It really is amazing how you look at a team and the team is, not performing to the standards of the manager. And it's amazing to me to see how fast you can turn that team around just by saying, I believe in you, right? Those words, I believe in you. You should believe in yourself. I believe in you. I feel like people don't say that to people enough. And it's sounds so dumb and almost like patronizing to say to people. I just don't think people say it enough, and not just say it, but also believe in it. It changes the way people work when they actually feel it gives them confidence. And when it gives them confidence, it also gives them the independence that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Again, it sounds like self-help and all that, but a lot of times you look at a bad team and a lot of times you can look at the manager and say, maybe it's how you're managing them or your expectation of them, all sorts of little things.
A friend of mine came into a team. He's a manager. He came into a team, and the previous manager who had just left basically said to the team, like, you guys are all worthless. Like, there's no way you're going to amount to anything. And he had one-on-ones with this team as he came into them, and they're like, yeah, the previous manager was like terrible. And he's like, okay, forget the previous manager. I love you guys.
Yeah,
you're great.
Yeah.
You're impactful.
Yeah.
And the team totally turned around.
Yeah. Yeah. There's one last section to this book as we come to the end. I want to read what the sequel is to the 7 Habits. I have it highlighted.
I love this. This is Sean's section, yeah.
So if any of these, sound like you're like, yeah, that sounds great, then you know what needs to be worked on. I'm going to read you the 7 habits of highly ineffective people. Habit 1. React. Blame all your problems on your lousy boss, your parents, your genes, your spouse, your partner, your ex. Be a victim. Habit 2. Begin with squat in mind. Don't plan ahead. Don't set goals. Don't worry about the consequences of your actions. Go with the flow. Live for a moment and party on, dude.
YOLO.
Habit 3. Put first things last. Procrastinate. Do the urgent things first, like answer every ring, bling, and beep that comes your way. You'll get to the important stuff later. Think, win, lose. See life as vicious competition. Everyone's out to get you, so you better get them first. Habit 5. Seek first to talk, then pretend to listen. You are born with a mouth, so use it. Talk a lot. Make sure everyone understands your view first. Habit 6. Be an island. Let's face it, other people are weird because they're different from you, so why try to get along with them? Habit 7. Burn yourself out. Be too busy driving to take time to get gas. Be too busy living to take time to recharge. Don't learn new things. Avoid exercise like the plague. And for heaven's sakes, stay away from good books, nature, art, music, podcasts that try to make you think better about yourselves. Those are a lot lousy things. Turn them off. That's the sequel to this book.
So I got to say, I love, this is in, again, the 30th anniversary edition. This is the edition by Sean Covey, his son.
Yeah.
I love this section of habits of ineffective people. Now, when I taught language, one of the things that, teaching things like English, teaching things like Japanese, one of the things that I was taught, which is based on a lot of evidence, is don't teach people the wrong things
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
show them that they're wrong. Just show people examples of the right things.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only weakness of this section is that, like, it can instill in your mind the idea that this wrong way of viewing the world exists. But I think it's really funny.
Well, I think it's really great because it shows the extreme other side. And I think it's easy to say, oh, okay, that's an extreme other side in the bad direction. Now I get what they're saying in the good direction,
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's really, it's great. I think it's a good section. My personal one out of all these habits that I actually was like, oh, I identify too closely to this
Yeah.
is the habit 5, right?
Seek first to talk, then pretend to listen.
Out of all these habits, like, I was like, none of these describe me at all, except the seek first to talk, then pretend to listen was the closest.
Yeah.
Because I definitely have that, like, when it says make sure that everyone understands your views first, then I don't pretend to listen. I do listen, but I do want other people to understand my view at the beginning.
For me, the habit 7 speaks to me so much. I honestly, I read that at first. I'm like, I don't see a problem with this. So that's why I said when I first started reading this, like, if any of these sound like not so bad to you, that's the habit you have to work on. That's the other reason why I like these extremes, is because if any of these habits did not sound that extreme to you, that's the habit you have to work on the most. I think the biggest thing about this book that I hate is that it's like a paradigm shift's like a glass shattering moment. And then once that glass is shattered, you can never fix that piece of glass again. And so once you understand these habits, and then you move to like a higher recognition of these habits, you start to recognize when other people do it, and it will really frustrate you sometimes. So habit 1 of
It'll
the
only
7
frustrate you, Jesse, if you let it.
Yeah, I choose to let it frustrate. But like the 7 habits of highly ineffective people, habit 1, react, like blame other people besides yourself. I think that's the one most very apparent habit to me. It's very easy to spiral out of control and blame other people for things that are happening to you. But man, there's just some people who it's like so apparent they blame other people besides themselves. And it is frustrating sometimes when you're like, come on, man, like, take some accountability, some.
That's a very useful, effective mechanism for protecting the self.
Yeah,
right? I think
really
there's
is.
a reason that a lot of people are reactive. We'll get to this with the first habit, right?
Yeah.
But there's a reason that a lot of people do blame others, and that's that it does protect themselves.
Yeah.
Right? They're saying, it's not my fault. I'm doing everything perfectly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Other people are the reason that I'm not succeeding.
Yeah.
And that can be a useful way of, it's not good for a long-term result, but it is good for the short-term thinking, like, I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
Right?
No, and it's true, right? And I think that's what a lot about this book's going to be is, try to get you out of a protective mindset and more into an introspective mindset.
So we've gotten to page 70, and I think we're now at habit 1, the start of private victory, which starts on page 74. And join us next time as we continue on this wonderful road.
Fantastic road. And that was our containerized conversation. I'm Jesse Caffarelli.
I'm Josh Warhurst. Have a great night.